Okay, so this is story time. Why are you laughing at me? This is a story time of when I found out I was pregnant and what else? Like everything that went on in my pregnancy and stuff like that. So, okay, so before I even found out I was pregnant, I kind of already knew, like, I guess you could say, like, I just knew my body really well. Like, at first I was, like, always craving like the big bags of salt and vinegar chips, like the family size bags. And then, hey. And then, messing up story time. And then I would always want beef jerky. And, like, always sweet stuff, too. So I was working at Target at the time. Like, every time I was always on break, I just always wanted something sweet to eat. Always wanted salt and vinegar chips. So I had I took my first test like a few days before I missed my period, and it was like a faint line. So then I waited, and I was like, maybe the test is just messed up. I don't know. Stop. So then I was like, you know what, maybe the test is just, messed up or whatever. So I didn't get my period. So something had happened at my house one day, and I was just like really upset. And then so I was just crying, like hysterically. So I was like, you know what, because I don't really cry. I was like, you know what, maybe I'm just, either my period's coming or I'm pregnant. So I took another test and it came out positive, like not even 30 seconds later. So I started crying again. I'm like, I'm gonna be a mom. But I had already knew it was gonna happen. Like, I don't know, I just knew my body too well. So the test came back positive, and I had called to make a doctor's appointment. I told my son's father's family first, then they ended up telling my mother, and then everything just started. Like, I started going to the doctors, and at first the doctors was trying to tell me that I was having a miscarriage because when they did my test, they were supposed to do it 3 days apart to make sure my HCG levels were rising, and they weren't. So they gave me an ultrasound, and they told me to come back in 2 weeks to see how the baby was doing. Came back, and he was just getting bigger. So I did another 2 weeks, and he just kept growing. So I kind of still had anxiety about it. And then once they made me do this blood draw at 10 weeks, and I got the results back at 13 weeks to find out I was having a boy. I was mad because I wanted a girl. His father was happy because it was a boy. He kept saying, like, the whole time, it's a boy, it's a boy, it's a boy. But you know me, I didn't want to get to believe it. So once I found out it was a boy, I was kind of happy. It's like, you're right, because I was blessed with a baby. So my pregnancy was kind of hard. I was always throwing up in and out of the hospital and having seizures, passing out in my sleep, not waking up. It was just really bad. And then summertime came, and I was trying to actually work. I hated being in the house. I just wanted to be out. So, stay hi, Stinky. Say hi to YouTube. 911. So there was this one time I had an interview like down the street for Dunkin' Donuts, and I went to the interview. I felt fine. Walking back home, I started having contractions. I ended up getting sick and was in the hospital. When I went to the hospital, they discharged me like the next day, and then that same night I ended up back in the hospital. When I was in the hospital, I was having contractions. They were gonna make me have a C-section the next morning, and I denied it. I was like, no, not at all. So they ended up inducing me I was 35 weeks when I went in. They kept me at another hospital for a week until I was 36 weeks, and then I was 36 weeks and 4 days, and they ended up inducing me. They put some kind of balloon on my cervix to make me like dilate, and they put me on medicine. So that was the 4th of July. I was so upset because I'm like, wow, everybody's out having fun for the 4th, and then I'm home. I mean, not home, but in the hospital. So I didn't have a phone at that time, so I used the hospital phone to tell everybody, oh, the baby's coming tomorrow morning, because the doctor was like, oh, the baby will be here July 5th sometime in the afternoon. So overnight, my mother, my son's father, and my son's godmother came, and we were in the hospital. I was so high. I had morphine. I had like so much stuff in my system. Like everything was just funny to me. So I ended up getting dilated overnight to 2 centimeters. They checked me like 4 hours later, and I ended up being 3 centimeters. And they said if they pop my sac, that he'll come faster. And that's what I was like, yes, I just want this to be over, because those contractions hurt so bad. So they popped my sac, and once I hit 5 centimeters, I couldn't take the contractions anymore. Like, I was just in so much pain because the morphine made me so sleepy. Like, I couldn't keep my eyes open, and then having contractions every 45 seconds was just like upsetting for me. So I asked for epidural once I hit 6 centimeters. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need an epidural. So they gave me an epidural, and once they gave me the epidural, I just waited it out. I ended up falling asleep after I got the epidural. My son's father, his mom, and my son's godmother went to Popeyes, which is down the street from the hospital. While I was sleeping. When I woke up, because I was feeling the contractions and I was crying. So the nurse checked me. She was like, oh, you're 10 centimeters. It's time to start pushing. My eyes got so big. I'm like, it's time to do what? So they were like, it's time to start pushing. So they started propping my legs up. As soon as they started propping my legs up, my son's father came in the room, his mom, and my son's godmother. So I was just like, if you guys wouldn't have came, I wouldn't have pushed. I would have just been sitting there with my son's head like right between my legs, because his head was already out. So I started pushing. I literally only pushed for 45 seconds, and he was out. When he was born, he was crying normally because he was only 4 pounds and 12 ounces. They thought something was going to be wrong with him, so they put him in the NICU for 24 hours just to make sure he didn't have type 1 diabetes, because I have diabetes, so they wanted to, make sure his sugars were like regulated before they put us on the regular floor. So they rushed him upstairs. His grandmother and his dad went with him, and then they left me downstairs, and I got cleaned up. I tried to walk, and I couldn't, because one of my legs were numb. Like, I couldn't feel my leg. Like, I was crying. I thought it was going to be paralyzed for the rest of my life. My back was hurting from the epidural and everything. So once I finally got cleaned up, they let me go see the baby in a wheelchair. I was so happy. Papa, you can't eat my toes. So then I was so happy. He was healthy after they took him for 24 hours. They gave him a bath, cleaned out the stuff in his head. He was tiny, but he was okay. So then We got to stay for 2 days. Everything was good. We brought him home, and sorry, got interrupted, but yeah, we were able to go home, and ever since then, like, he's just been growing and growing and growing. He's 9 months now, and now he's trying to walk. He crawls everywhere, gets into everything, just, you know, normal stuff. And his birthday's coming up in 3 months. He'll be 1. Being pregnant with him was not easy at all for me. I would wake up, I would go days without eating, and then when I did decide to eat, I would throw up everything. It was hard because I would have like seizures, and my son's father would like have to rush me to the hospital. There's been times that I would like pass out while I'm sleeping and nothing would wake me up. I was in the hospital plenty of times. There was times when the doctor couldn't find my heartbeat or the baby's heartbeat because my sugars were so low. Like, my sugars would be like 10 and 12. And that was the lowest they've ever been, like, my whole life. And then tired. But I lost 30 pounds while I was pregnant from just throwing up, not eating. It put me in depression too. Like, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go nowhere. I didn't want to speak with anybody. Like, I was just really depressed. It made me feel like the world was just against me. The last ultrasound I had was June 21st, which is my birthday, to see the baby. And then I ended up being hospitalized from June 26th until July 8th. I was in the hospital for a week. And then I had him, and we stayed for 2 days. But he's healthy now. He's growing, he's active. There's nothing wrong with him. Time flew by so fast. And like I said before, like, I would always crave salt and vinegar chips. Anytime I ate hot food, I would throw it up. My mother-in-law always cooked because I was living with her. And my son's father at the time, she always cooked. I always ate. And then it was just like, at certain points I just felt so low, like I wouldn't even want to be alive. And sometimes I would get upset, like, why couldn't everything just be normal for me, like other people? Then I realized it was all worth it in the end. And he came. Say hi, Stinky. Say hi. His name is James, but everybody calls him Papa.